स्वाद, असली स्वाद तो MDH दही वड़ा रायता मसाले से ही आता है।
Thank you for joining us on This is Exclusive, coming to you with two big stories. The Robert Vadra super deal, one of India's biggest deals of the century. It's a case study. If you're linked to a politician or a political party, and if that political party is ruling, you can be anybody. Like Robert Vadra, you can go from 0 to 58 crore in just one deal. That and much more coming up. On the startup scam as well, we have some details. Here are the headlines on This is Exclusive. More on the Gensol startup scam. More and more details emerging of how investor money was defrauded. We'll tell you how the scam was busted. An NSC member went to the Gensol manufacturing plant in Pune, which then turned out to be empty. The manufacturing lie busted. SEBI flags the 262 crore fraud. SEBI chief saying that a bigger crackdown could be possible on the Gensol owners. More details emerge on the Vadra land scam. How a bank account with just 1 lakh rupees managed to acquire land worth 7.5 crore rupees, eventually sold it for 58 crore rupees. The 1 lakh to 58 crore success story of Vadra. Day 3 of grilling Robert Vadra. He sees the Republic mic. He says, keep Republic away, keep Republic away. What spooks Vadra so much about Republic? And more details emerging on the Pune Porsche cover-up. Republic, the only channel to stick its neck out and say that there was a cover-up. It's now proven. We'll tell you how two Pune police officials are also facing dismissal. Full details on the show this evening. In fact, I'm starting with a breaking news update that we wanted to share with all our viewers. Last year around this time, and let's get you the details, the Pune Porsche cover-up, where a VVIP brat linked to politicians, how he ran over people and he was shielded politically. The Pune police also was a part of that cover-up. A big breaking now coming in that the prosecution in this particular case also showed proof of document forgery, something that Republic TV confirmed. Republic had confronted the Pune police as well back then. The Pune police and the prosecution has gone on record to say that the blood report of the VVIP brat was forged. The Pune police has admitted that two of their own officers, two Pune police cops, were involved in this conspiracy and now face dismissal. It's a story that we broke and we are now following up. The story breaking on Republic TV. We will continue to follow up and get you more details in a short while from now. As we talk about the startup scam, a lot of people are invested in the stock markets, and many times these founders and so-called startups try to make false promises. They get a lot of funding. But what do they do with that funding? The story of Gensol, the company behind BluSmart cabs, which are now off the road, is a prime example of how things can go horribly wrong if you lie and cheat And as we look at the Gensol story closer, we found out something more, and I have the details on this is exclusive. This is about the manufacturing plant that wasn't. The manufacturing plant that wasn't. It appears that as far as Gensol is concerned, how they duped investors. In fact, a few weeks back, there was a detailed press release from Gensol saying that they had received pre-orders. They claimed pre-orders for 30,000 electric vehicles. Gensol had made the claim during the Bharat Mobility Expo saying that they had 30,000 pre-orders, and they claimed that they were getting big business. But when documents were scanned, it appeared that these were just MOUs entered with 9 firms. Just MOUs entered with 9 firms, and the MOUs showed no details of price or delivery schedule. And when an NSE, National Stock Exchange representative, visited the Gensol plant in Pune, in Chakan, Pune, the discrepancy was completely exposed. In fact, on the left of your screens right now in that window, those were the ads that Gensol put out to give an impression that there was huge manufacturing happening at this particular plant in Chakan, Pune. It so turns out that there was absolutely no manufacturing. No manufacturing activity at the plant. And when the NSE representative went there, just 2 to 3 laborers were seen in this particular plant of Gensol. Even the electricity bill that was put out, in fact, the NSE official also looked at the electricity bill. It was a little over 1.5 lakhs. That's it, just 1.5 lakhs. And that was in December 2024 for a period of 12 months. The electricity bill was seen. But this is how they duped investors. Another angle in the Gensol story. Gensol put out press releases a few months back claiming that they had pre-orders for 30,000 electric vehicles. That's how they raised expectation, raised money. They made claims during the Bharat Mobility Expo saying that they had 2 or 3 new electric vehicles in the pipeline. They were going to manufacture these vehicles in their Pune plant. And then, when discrepancies popped up, when documents were scanned, it appeared the documents showed that these were just MOUs entered with around 9 firms for the 30,000 pre-orders that they had claimed. And the MOU showed absolutely no details of the price or delivery schedule of the so-called 30,000 electric vehicles that were promised. And then it gets interesting because the NSE, which is by now probing why the stock prices have crashed, why Gensol is defaulting, they go to their Chakan plant in Pune, and the Chakan plant, the manufacturing plant of Gensol, where they claim that they will be manufacturing these EVs, they saw that there is no manufacturing activity at all. There are 2 huge manufacturing sheds with just 2 to 3 laborers inside. Can you imagine? That's how they conned people and defrauded people. They continued to make money and use their money from investors to splurge on their lifestyle. And when the NSE official asked for the electricity bill to see what really was happening at the plant, there was absolutely nothing. No activity, just 1.5 lakh bill for nearly 12 months. It's the story of Gensol. Maybe Gensol is just one of the many companies out there, many who are listed even, who are conning investors. That's the fear. My colleague Priyanka checked out the Gensol unit in Ahmedabad this evening.
And we do understand as the 20% equity contribution clearly inside of the Gensol office said they're not with Gensol and said they do not know anything. We'll move on to some other parts of the office as well, where everyone in fact is just shrugging their shoulders and saying they do not know. That has suspected that large part of the money that had been routed through related entities of the founders for the personal gain, as our colleagues in fact have also been pointing out, that over 42.94 crores that had been paid to DLF for an apartment in Camellia's project, that itself has raised a lot of questions. And apart from that, more than over 30 lakhs of a golf set and personal travel, including leisure and paying off of credit cards and transferring money to close relatives, that has also taken place. And we do understand as the 20% equity contribution clearly inside of the Gensol office said they're not with Gensol and said they do not know anything. We'll move on to some other parts of the office as well, where everyone, in fact, is just shrugging their shoulders and saying they do not know. That has suspected that large part of the money that had been routed through related entities of the founders for the personal gain, as our colleagues, in fact, have also been pointing out, that over 42.94 crores that had been paid to DLF for an apartment in Camellia's project, that itself has raised a lot of questions. And apart from that, more than over 30 lakhs of a golf set and personal travel, including leisure and paying off of credit cards and transferring money to close relatives, that has also taken place. That is
Report from Gensol in Ahmedabad. I'm going across to my colleague Piyush, who is joining us live from Gurugram, where there is a craze to buy properties at the DLF Camellia. So it's supposed to be this society. We've only read about it, Piyush, that there is so-called society DLF called DLF Camellias, where only if you have an apartment there, it's like a statement that you've arrived, where all these so-called startup founders, Forbes 30 under 30 types live. Is that true? And we are hearing that these Gensol owners, whatever people invested in their company, whatever funding came in, they took all that money, gave it to their families, gave it to DLF, and bought some property as well. What they wanted to buy homes there, that's where my colleague Piyush is. DLF Camellias. Tell us more about this DLF Camellias. We don't know, we're not aware about these things. Piyush. Because common people just invest in the stock market, they don't know the craze of these founders. Yes, go ahead.
So the unfortunate aspect, and while I speak, I would just request my video journalist to show you the visuals of DLF Camellias. I would just want my video journalist to just zoom in the visuals and show the visuals of DLF Camellias. Now, this is one of the most expensive real estate properties in not only the National Capital Region, Niranjan, but it is one of the most prominent real estate markets in the country, and thereby the who's who of the people who have made it big as far as the finances are concerned, and those people who have gained a lot of money through the angel investing or through investing is concerned. They are making sure that they purchase property in over here at DLF Camellias, which has been recently built. Now you can understand that one flat over here costs about 60 to 70 crores starting, and thereby when you see that the Jaggi brothers, who are promoters of Gensol, they rather used the investor money which was given to them for the company for their own personal benefit, and this has now been confirmed by the SEBI investigative report that how crore of money was used by the Jaggi brothers, that involves Puneet Jaggi and Anmol Jaggi, in purchasing apartment over here at DLF Camellias, which is one of the prominent real estate markets, which is one of the most expensive real estate markets, which is one of the most luxurious real estate markets over here. The price range over here starts from around 50,000 per square feet, so you can understand it is beyond the reach of a common person, and thereby the who's who of the people are purchasing plots over here. The key question over here, however, remains that even though those who have made it big can purchase the property over here, are you swindling away the investors' money? Are you swindling away the public money for your own personal benefits? Unfortunately, in this case of Gensol Engineering, it has been witnessed that how the Jaggi brothers unfortunately use it, and this is an unfortunate reality of most of our startups and some of our companies which are using public money for their personal benefits. It is again one more unfortunate example of Gensol Engineering, which used to operate the BluSmart cabs, of again using the public money for the personal benefits. And the example of this is DLF Camellias, where unfortunately they have used crore of money for their own personal benefits. Back in the studio.
Okay, thank you for joining us with those details. Story also being picked up as the big debate with Arnab at 9 p.m. Let's move on to the other big story we're tracking here on Republic TV, the story about Robert Vadra and Robert Vadra's land deals. Now, it was infamously called Damad Gate. Damad Gate. Damad Shri, as the BJP called him. It's about a deal where a company called Skyline gets a super sweet deal almost for free, no money paid. And it's the Enforcement Directorate which is saying it. Even the stamp duty. So if you buy property, ladies and gentlemen, you buy property and then you pay stamp duty. But in the case of Robert Vadra, his company's bank account had just 1 lakh rupees in them. The seller, the person who's selling the land, paid the stamp duty for Robert Vadra's company and then gave the land to Robert Vadra's company as well. So with absolutely nothing and just 1 lakh in the account, paid zero, got 58 crore rupees. That is Robert Vadra's deal of the century. The deal of the century, where even the seller paid stamp duty, and all of this has come out in the investigation. They got the property without paying a penny. So here's how it goes. So Robert Vadra is very influential, right? He is married to Priyanka Vadra, daughter of Sonia Gandhi. And Hooda was the Chief Minister of Haryana. Hooda gives a clearance for the land usage in 4 days. 4 days, Robert Vadra gets a clearance and the land is already in his name. He doesn't pay a penny. And the landowners are so generous that they themselves pay the stamp duty for Robert Vadra. And Robert Vadra, without having any money in the company bank account, overnight gets property valued at 7.5 crore, which then becomes 58 crore in a few months. And boom, 0 to 58 crore in just a few months. And that is why Robert Vadra hates Republic TV, because we break down stories as they are. Vadra super deal. Take a look at how Robert Vadra got frazzled when questioned. The Vadra sequence. I want to play the Vadra sequence now that I just mentioned. I want to play the Vadra sequence. Listen into what Vadra said when we tried to question him. Something about Republic that he hates so much. Hates. And we love it.
इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ पीछे रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ पीछे रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो.
Okay, so very interesting details coming out as we look at the Enforcement Directorate investigation. And one of the aspects that has come out in this investigation is that at the time of transaction on the land in question in Shikhopur, Haryana, Robert Vadra's company had just 1 lakh rupees in its bank account. Now, these are details shared by the Enforcement Directorate. Let me tell you, this is the deal of the century, and this is why it's the deal of the century, right? Vadra's company Skylight had roughly 1 lakh rupees in its bank account at the time of the purchase. With 1 lakh balance, they managed to acquire the property, which was valued at 7.5 crore rupees. So, story is about how 1 lakh balance in the bank turned into 58 crore at the end of a super sweet land deal. 1 lakh balance, 58 crore for Robert Vadra's Skylight Hospitality. Documents also show that Vadra's firms really had no money to acquire the land in the first place. They had no money. Even the stamp duty in 2008, and we're talking about 2008, the stamp duty was 45 lakh rupees, which also, of course, was not in that account at that point of time and was paid for by the seller, Omkareshwar Properties. Omkareshwar paid for the stamp duty, is what the Enforcement Directorate says, as part of its investigation into the Vadra land deal. I will go across to my colleague Shravan as well, who's joining us with the details of this Robert Vadra land deal. In fact, before I go across to Shravan, I want to play that sequence once again. And I want you to listen to how spooked Robert Vadra is when Republic Mike is just there in front of him. Yesterday, he said, "Inko hatao ya se." And then he also said, "Bahut ho gaya, inko nikalo." He just doesn't like, Robert Vadra does not like Republic being around because he's scared of the questions. Listen in.
इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ पीछे रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ पीछे रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो.
Okay, Shravan is joining us with the details. Shravan, has the ED actually said that he had no money in his account?
Well, in fact, Robert Vadra has been saying all this while that there is no evidence that has been gathered by the Enforcement Directorate. This has been going on for over a decade, and he does not know why exactly he is being called in for questioning. Now, that is what he says to everyone. And in fact, since we laid our hands on these documents, which goes on to indicate this, and the Enforcement Directorate, answering your question, Niranjan, specifically points out to this particular land deal. Let me just quickly explain what the ED is saying in these documents. One, that this deal that was between Skylight and a company called Omkareshwar, in fact, this was a deal for 3.5 acres land in Gurgaon, in Shikhopur. That's where the land deal was supposed to take place, worth about 5.5 crores. Turns out that Skylight Hospitality, a company that was floated by Robert Vadra, had just 1 lakh rupees. So they ended up not paying anything, at least for the first 6 months. And interestingly, the stamp duty was also not paid by Skylight. A company which had only 1 lakh rupees as a bank balance, how could they actually strike a deal with another company for 7.5 crore rupees? And secondly, even after taking the land, it is the seller which had to pay the stamp duty, and the stamp duty was around 45 lakh rupees. That money too wasn't paid as far as Enforcement Directorate is concerned from their investigation. The other point is that within 4 days of this land being handed over to Skylight, you had the then Chief Minister Bhupinder Hooda giving the license in just 4 days, what was supposed to be a process that could have taken 3 months. Typically, it would have taken 3 months, but this license was given in just 4 days. And it couldn't have been possible had it been any other ordinary citizen. It is only because he is, after all, the son-in-law, and the Chief Minister wanted to do a favor. So much so, an IS officer was shunted out because as per this investigation, they say Hooda had clearly stated that the company does not have the financial technical capability, but solely on the ground that the company is owned by Robert Vadra.
Okay, thank you for that. I have some more breaking news coming in right now. Shavan, exclusive details coming in from Karnataka of the cabinet meeting that was just held. In fact, this is a story breaking on Republic TV right now. On the caste census, there was a caste census, a very, very controversial caste census that was conducted by the Karnataka government, over which they had a cabinet meeting, and it appears like the caste census exercise has backfired completely, as different ministers belonging to the backward, Dalit and minority communities have clashed, disagreed with ministers from Vokkaliga and Lingayat communities. So Congress ministers themselves fighting it out in the cabinet meeting in Karnataka. In fact, at some point, the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah also had to advise ministers to maintain calm, discuss the issue peacefully. Hearing that Minister Mallikarjun strongly opposed the report, criticizing it for grouping hundreds of Muslim subsects under one category, exactly what Republic had reported. Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar also raised his voice. D.K. Shivakumar, likely to be the next Chief Minister of Karnataka, also raising his voice, opposing the report, stating bluntly that it is unacceptable. More and more leaders, ministers speaking out, saying that the caste census exercise of the Congress party is a flop. They tried to appease the minority community. They used that report to raise the reservation for minorities, especially and OBCs. Unlikely that it's going to go through, given how even Congress leaders are acting on it. That's it on this edition of This Is Exclusive. Thanks for watching. Arnab coming up with 3 big debates starting 8 p.m.
लाल रंग इसका अपार, तीखा कम है फिर भी स्वाद, बेमिसाल बेमिसाल MDH कश्मीरी